And we are live. Welcome in, everybody, to the Bluebloods Coach's Corner edition. As always, joined by my guy, Coach Fred. And it was a very good weekend, I would say, over in Jackson for my guy, Coach. Now, obviously, man, we need Alabama State to come through one more time. They didn't get it done. So PV FAMU SWAC championship in 2 weeks after the Turkey Day and Bayou Classic wrap up this weekend. But Coach, anytime you get a big win in a rivalry game like that on the road against your rival, man, it's got to feel good.
Felt great. Like you said, the second part of that, we're going to take the co-champion and we're going to run with it. You know, we are co-West champs as well. They just go to the game because they had the head-to-head over us. But anytime you beat your rival, anytime you can win a championship, man, it's great. It was a great atmosphere. The fans were engaged. We came and took the win out that thing early and held on late. So, you know, we're going to ride this one out for 363 more days as state champs because we beat Valley and we beat Jackson. So we are state champs. We're also, like I said, the SWAC West Division champs. So whatever you want to say, man, just add it to my resume, baby. Add it to the resume.
I love it, man. So, Coach, I mean, obviously, this game, huge game. And I want to say, Jackson State defensive backs, because this hasn't been mentioned enough, are so glad number 14 that wears the purple and gold is on his way out, because that is back-to-back years that Montario Hunt has terrorized the Jackson defense.
Yes. And then prior to the year before, the last time we was in Jackson, he hit him for like a 70-yard bomb as well. And then last season, he gave the young man that's in Colorado and a few other guys, he gave them some work. And then this year, he just picked up where he's left off the last two. Hats off to him, man. Great game, great season, great career versus the school up the street. So, you know, again, we thank Montario for everything he did for us, man. And Saturday, he just came out and was played lights out.
Yeah, I mean, it was an impressive performance. Terrence Ellis, too, my guy, had a big game at linebacker, had a big interception, led the team in tackles. It was just it was a great day, man. I think Aaron played really well. He had that one mistake, but outside of that, I thought he played almost, I mean, damn near a perfect game, to be honest with you. Didn't make any mistakes outside the one pick. We got to get better camera crews for these games. Because I don't like that interception they called back. I don't think I saw a single replay of that.
Well, you can go back. You can slow it down. I'll send you still pictures. It was an interception. We don't know how. It was ruled an interception on the field.
Yeah.
Don't know what angle the replay could have seen to overturn it. And the telltale sign, if it's on Bluebloods University sideline, and there's an ounce of doubt that ball hit the ground, you see everybody over there going crazy. All you saw was guys put their helmets on and run out on the field like, he got us. And lo and behold, somehow they replay it, they overturn it, ball back to them. But, you know, nonetheless, you're right. We've got to do better in those situations.
And I know you can't say anything because I don't know if it's like the NBA or anything, but now, the refs on both sides, like, I mean, good Lord, man. It was just, I mean, there were times where it just felt like the game, it felt like y'all's game took forever because there was just times where it just took the refs forever to figure out what was going on.
Yeah,
it was it's just ridiculous. We've said this all year. What you guys had problems in the PV game. We've had problems in the Jackson game. Jackson Bethune was one of the most poorly officiated games I think I've ever seen in my life. The SWAC has to do better, and I got a feeling this weekend the Bayou Classic, next weekend in the SWAC Championship, we're going to have the same conversation because there's going to be a call or two. There's going to be some delay. There's going to be something, and we're like, what are the refs doing at this point? And then, of course, I mean, nothing beats a rivalry win than meeting at midfield with the opposing team and everything getting chipped like that. Just like add the check mark to why that's one of the best rivalries. I know as a coach it's stressful for you, but as a fan, it's like that shows how deep that rivalry really runs.
Yeah, and it's absolutely crazy once you get that separated and everybody's told to go to the locker rooms and all that, and then you come back out and everybody's taking pictures, high school cats dapping each other up, like, dude, just 3 minutes ago, you were swinging at him, that kind of thing. But, again, they're kids. They've all played against each other or with each other. Nobody wanted to lose that game. Unfortunately, that side got to taste it. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Fortunately, that side got to taste it. And we just, like I said, for 363 more days, we are state champs. Can't say anything about it. I don't care. I see people tweeting, you won the game, leave it on, move on. No, we're not going to move on. We're going to stay right here in that moment with that win. And we'll move on next year, same time. We'll go after that.
Yeah, but move on in Lorman next year if they catch you guys. But this, because we have so much to talk about. I mean, I don't even know where to start because the transfer portal season has started. Coaching changes just across college football. You got the playoff committee announcement. Well, and we'll probably talk about our game of the week in this. Coach, the bracket has been officially released for the FCS playoffs, and man, there was a lot of debate on if the committee got it right. So, I mean, the last four in, Coach, was Mercer, Chattanooga, Sac State, Youngstown State. And the first four out were UT Martin, Eastern Illinois, UC Davis, and Holy Cross. Did you have any problem with the teams that the playoff committee selected to participate, or did you think someone got snubbed this Sunday?
Man, as bad as I want to say, my guys, the Fighting Curve and Barrels, got snubbed. I guess that final loss really did them in. I like the bracket. I was trying to pull it back up because I think there's some interesting.
Let's see. I got you right here.
But Western's been not in favor all year. So I figured once that loss happened that they would be out of it.
Yeah. It was a bad loss too. Like that's losing to VMI. And then I don't know. Me and Timothy talked yesterday in our playoff episode. Did Cole Gonzalez's injury play a part? Did they look at that team and say, are we going to put a team that's already down a starting quarterback? Are we going to let them in over some other at-large teams that might be healthier? I know that sounds like a terrible thing to judge it on, but that could have been the decision.
Yeah, that's real. I think, like you said, they kind of get to that point to where, okay, not really knowing how bad the injury is, but we know he's hurt. They're already a fringe team. Is it going to really be worth it when we can go ahead and take a Delaware who had a loss as well, but we know they're starting, QB, they're starting teams intact. Do we go that route? So I think it played a part, but you can't have that loss and already be on the fringe and expect to get in. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, heck, Furman almost lost the seed. We'll get into that, losing to a one-win Wofford team, even though they were missing their starting quarterback and starting running back, but losing to a one-win team the week before the playoffs, they got so lucky.
Risky. That's
yeah, man, that especially being from the SoCon, like maybe a Valley team could have slipped up, but a SoCon team, and they went from possibly the 2 seed to the 7. And Coach, you're looking now, if they can get past that first game, now they got to go to Missoula for that that quarters matchup, which is brutal. I will say, I released my predictions on Saturday night. I had 7 of the 8 seeds correct, and I've had 22 or 24 teams correct. And I'll say this, I was really surprised that Chattanooga got in. I'm glad they got in because they've been on the outskirts the past few years, really close. But that's a team that was 7-4. Their signature, I mean, they have a one signature win over Mercer, but that loss to North Alabama probably is the worst loss of all the other bubble teams. I'm interested to see like what I wish the committee would be more open with their reasoning, because that team getting in over, I think a UT Martin is interesting, with UT having 8 Division I wins. That loss to Gardner-Webb isn't a terrible loss. Now, they did lose to Sanford, so I understand it to a point, but they got more D1 wins. The strength of schedules aren't super different. I'm interested to see how they viewed that. And then, Coach, the other issue I had, Sac State gets in. UC Davis left out on the bubble when UC Davis just beat Sac State on Saturday, and they have the same overall record.
I didn't understand that one. And I was going to ask you about that one in the UT deal, just to get your opinion.
Sadly, I do think it came down to that Stanford win for Sac State. They got that Power 5 win, and I think that was the deciding factor. Sadly, the reason I had both of these teams in, Coach, I'll be honest. I had Chattanooga out. I would have put UC Davis in, but you could have them both in. It's just, how do you tell that team? Because UC Davis, most of their wins or most of the losses came without their starting running back, Lan Larison. Since he's come back, they're like 4-1.
Yeah.
I mean, so do you take into account injury to that? And then 2, do you take into account a team that's trending up compared to a team that's been trending down? Sac State has not looked good over the past 3-4 weeks of the season. UC Davis is on a winning streak. So do you put the hotter team in? Now, obviously, that Power 5 win for Stanford, I maybe understand it, but man, I just don't see how you keep UC Davis out.
And the part that which made me want to ask you about it was because they beat them in the head-to-head.
Yeah.
And I just didn't understand that part. And then the UT Martin deal, my question to you was kind of like you said about their record. Did the committee see it as if they topped out, or that some of these Sac State, some of those had a better resume compared to what they did when you say the Power 5, all that? Because I thought UT was a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, I had UT Martin in. Now, I will say that the problem that they ran into is they lost to Gardner Webb. They had the Georgia game they lost, which obviously, then they lose to Stanford this weekend. So I do want to say this. I'm with the people that say it's the team's fault that they were left out. You beat Stanford, which you're supposed to win.
No doubt.
Yeah, you're in. So you lose to Stanford, so you take it out of your hands, which I get. But at the same time, they had no ranked wins, which is tough. They do have a win over Eastern Illinois, though, who was one of the first 4 out, who was ranked in the coaches poll number 25. So I guess maybe if you use the coaches poll as a ranked win. But what hurt UT Martin is all those signature wins ended up aging poorly. Tennessee State falls off a cliff. Charleston Southern is not very good. And it's just they didn't have that win to, I think, compare to a Power 5 win. Youngstown's win over Southern Illinois. Mercer had the win over Western Carolina when they were healthy. Chattanooga had the win over Mercer. I think it came down to they just didn't have a signature win. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if you get 8 D1 wins and you're 8-2 in the FCS, that should be enough to get you in. But I understand that at the end of the day, they cost themselves a shot. You're supposed to beat what was it, a 5-5 Stanford team? Yeah, you're supposed to beat that team, and you lose the final weekend. But that one was a tough pill for me to swallow. And I thought this was interesting too, Coach, because me and Timothy hit it yesterday. Incarnate Word wasn't even in the first 4 out, sitting at 9-2.
But you called that though.
Yeah,
well, I won't say you called it, but you questioned their ability to get in and where they would be at because of that strength of schedule. If I'm not mistaken, I think you called that maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting though that they weren't even in the first 4 out. But I will say this, and I said it yesterday, the committee's now set a precedent because this Incarnate Word team has almost the identical resume that FAMU had last year when they didn't get in. If you're 9-2 and you're playing a bunch of sub D1 opponents, you're not beating ranked teams, and you don't win your conference, man, that sucks for you, doesn't it? Because you're not getting in. And so now it turns, because there was a big debate because historically 9-2 HBCU teams haven't got in. Now it switches that it's not just HBCU teams. If you're a 9-2 team and you have a bad resume, you're not getting in now. Regardless if you're from the SWAC, the MEAC, the Southland, 9-2 with no ranked wins is not enough to get you in the dance. And so now I wonder if teams in some of these Southern conferences are going to start scheduling different.
That's the message that's been sent. It seems like play people, or, you better win out and be perfect, because other than that, we're not going to start counting these D2s. We're not going to count these non-scholarship wins as high points for you. So I think in that way it's good, because now it's going to force the hand of some teams to actually, like you said, have to schedule and play tougher competition.
The seeds, Coach, did any of them surprise you? You had South Dakota State at 1, Montana 2, South Dakota 3, Idaho 4, UAlbany 5, Montana State 6, Furman 7, Villanova 8. Any problem with the top 8 teams that get the bye week?
UAlbany. I mean, I knew they were in, but I didn't know if they would get that high. But hats off to them for getting their seed. But that was one that I was actually surprised to see as a seed.
Okay. I made an appearance today on Bison 1660, man. Shout out to Sam and those guys for inviting me on there. And they asked me if I thought UAlbany deserved it. Because UAlbany has this thing, Coach, this. If a brand that historically has not been good is this good, are they that good, or is it fool's gold? And a lot of people feel like UAlbany got the benefit of the doubt because they had a weaker CAA schedule. But I'm here to say I will defend UAlbany this year because my eye test tells me that team is good enough to compete this year. Because they're built perfectly. They got a good quarterback, strong at the line of scrimmage, playmakers at wide receiver, and their defense forces turnovers at a high clip. What else do you want? And their one loss was a tough road game, 7-point loss to New Hampshire, which isn't a great team, but it's a very tough place to play. And they went on they faced Villanova this year, who's a top 8 seed, beat them handily. It wasn't even competitive, handled William and Mary. They've proven their worth, and at the end of the day, they're 9-3, 7-1 in the CAA. If that team didn't get a seed, throw the whole tournament away. What else do you want me to do? And 2 of those 3 losses were competitive FBS losses. So it's.
I'm with it. You've been singing it all year. I'm with it. You have. Yeah. If anybody says you haven't, they haven't watched the show. You've been singing those guys all year. I just thought, because I won't say they're new to the scene, but they're new to the scene. Yeah. I just didn't think they would get in as high as they did. But again, if anybody's been singing it, you've been singing it.
Yeah. I will say so I had 7 of 8 seeds right. The one I didn't, I can see the argument. Part of me feels like North Dakota State should have been the 8. And Montana State should not be in.
Ooh.
And I don't hate it. Listen, I'm not going to burn it all down because Montana State got in. I think it's a really good team. Coach, they're 1-3 against the top teams. They haven't really played well of late. They're coming off a big blowout loss on the road to Montana.
Yep, they're trending down.
It's a trending downward team, while North Dakota State has won back-to-back ranked wins right now.
Yeah.
And then on top of that too, they're a team that's trending upwards, and they had some tough losses, but they haven't had a loss that's bad either. It's not like they've been losing to nobodies. They lost to playoff teams. And part of me feels like North Dakota State should have got the edge. Now, Austin Peay was in the debate from what I'm hearing for a seed, but you can't put Austin Peay in, who lost to Southern Illinois, who North Dakota State just demolished a week ago. So that probably was a head-to-head comparison that the committee used. I thought it came Montana State, North Dakota State. I'm shocked that Montana State was 6. I'm okay with them being a seed, but I mean, is their resume that much better than a Villanova?
But you can't use that metric either, because that takes you back to Sac State and UZ, So
that's true.
If they say that, you can't say that for one and then not for the other. So I'm like you. We'll never get answers. It'll never be completely transparent. But I would like to know what goes into it, because State is trending up from where they, had been on the rocky part. They have been trending up, and Montana on the way down, so to speak. So at the end of the day, I would like to see how they came up with it. But, you know, just for me, not to scrutinize it, but just for me to say, hey, this is what we did. We know the number 1 overall seed was a no-brainer. This is how we got to everybody else. You know, we kind of go from there. Because I really didn't think my boys in Idaho would be a top 5. Even though, you know, they've kind of ended it well, but they hit a rough patch right there. I mean, I knew they would get one, but I didn't think they would get inside the top 5 as far as the seeds. But, you know, hey, what do I know?
Yeah, I'm with you because I think the top 2 seeds were locks. I mean, it was South Dakota State and Montana, and it wasn't even a debate. I think even the 3 seed possibly. I mean, South Dakota with Furman's loss, I thought the top 3 were probably locks because you can't put Furman at the 3 seed after losing to a 1-win team. And I thought there was a chance that Furman could have dropped all the way out just because, I mean, that was such a bad loss. I mean, that was a terrible loss. But I think the committee was like, listen, you weren't healthy. You're going to get a seed. You're going to have a bye week to kind of get healthy. But I'll say this, if you're Austin Peay or Chattanooga and you can win this first round matchup this weekend and Furman isn't healthy, they're still missing their quarterback, still missing the running back, still missing some defenders, I feel really good going into the second round.
Got a chance.
Yeah, so that's the question there. But Coach, looking at the first round matchups, which game or 2 games is the most intriguing to you?
Of course, you know, Central, just because I really like to see how they do, and then, you know, the situation with the QB to see if he comes back all the way, you know, and be ready for that. And I would really want to see, you know, SWAC, who's been trending down, can they get it back going? So those are the 2 for me.
I like it. Man, Timothy's a troll. He said NDSU Drake is going to be a barn burner. Drake's a non-scholarship Pioneer League team, by the way. So
they better win.
So pretty much what happened is North Dakota State should have got a seed, but they technically got a seed because they have a bye week this week. The backups are going to play for 3 quarters in that game. It's going to be a bloodbath in the Fargo Dome for that Drake game. I'm just going to say that. Okay, so for me, Coach, I'm with you. The Sac State North Dakota game is very interesting. I'm with you. I think obviously Central Richmond. We're going to get into that because we have a question about them. Oh man, I still want to go chat Austin Peay. That game has the chance, Coach, to be an offensive explosion. It really does with how Chase can put up yards. Mike DeLelio's having a hell of a season at quarterback for Austin Peay. Both of those teams have coaches looking to prove everything. Chat's been on the outside looking in for the past 2 years. You know they're looking to make a statement. Austin Peay's got one of the best up-and-coming young coaches in the game in Scotty Walden. That game is going to be huge. And then plus, like I said, both of those teams are going to be super motivated because they're looking at Furman coming off that bad loss is a very winnable second-round game.
We can catch them.
If we can get past this first-round game, we can get to round 2 and possibly win if they're not healthy. Now, if Furman's healthy, let me say this. We're having a different conversation because that team can roll now. I'm not going to listen. With Tyler Huff is healthy, Furman's a different level of team. Also, Gardner Webb Mercer's interesting, man. Again, offensively.
I was going to ask you about the Mercer team.
Yeah, man, I'm so happy for them. I'll say that because first postseason appearance, Coach, in school history. And they've been right on the precipice for like 2 or 3 years now, making it there. They hired Chronic to get them over the hump, finally gets in the postseason. Now, sadly, the road ends for both of these teams next week. Whoever wins, the road ends in round 2 because neither of these teams are going to Brookings. But I will say, part of me, I want to see Ty James versus South Dakota State. If they can get him the ball, I just want that's NFL film for Ty James. Getting to go up against Deshaun Gales, was it Beanham as the other corner? Sign me up for that. But the problem is Carter Peavy going to be able to get him the ball? That's a whole nother question. But I still want to see Ty up there in Brookings.
I want to see, and I hope they're listening, what their offensive game plan is this week. Because if it's not all or nothing, TJ, I don't know what you're doing. I don't think you're trying to get that second.
He should get 20 targets.
Off top.
That's the game plan, is get the ball to 13. That's it. But Coach, if you're looking across the bracket, is there a potential matchup that you could see happening down the road that you're hoping that you get to see, whether it's second quarters or even possibly a semifinal matchup that the bracket set up for you to possibly see?
I'm really wanting to see, of course, the guys up in Brooklyn, man. I really want to see them and the Grids, man. I know that's a long way away.
That's national championship right there.
A long way away, but I would love to see that matchup, just to see what the Grids would do defensively, to try and stop, that team up in Brooklyn's there. But yeah, that one, and I would love to see how Villanova fares, going forward, just because.
Yeah, Coach, you're going to kick yourself for not saying this one. Idaho UAlbany sounds like a weekend game changer in the quarters.
If my guys up in Idaho are healthy, that won't be as interesting as you think it's going to be.
Now let me throw this out, because me and Timothy kind of talked about it yesterday.
Timothy,
Idaho has struggled offensive line wise to protect Giovanni. You bring in that defensive line with those dogs on it for UAlbany. Can they get enough pressure to force him into some mistakes? Because we know their secondary can force some interceptions. Is that, to me, stylistically, that's the scariest matchup for Idaho until they get to the semifinals with a potential South Dakota State matchup. They match up well with Nichols, Southern Illinois. I think they match up well with Richmond and Central. If I don't want to see UAlbany in the quarters.
I don't know, man. I just feel like if those guys are healthy, I just think McCoy puts a lot of pressure on some people, and I don't know if UAlbany has faced that type of kid.
No, they haven't. They definitely haven't.
Yeah, and this is a one-shot type thing, so he's only got to be good for 4 quarters. He's only got to be Houdini for a little while. So I expect them to be able to get to one of those rounds that me and you've got to discuss if we're going to go see that or not. So I'm counting on you, Idaho. I'm counting on you.
Listen, the second round matchup I want to see, and this is where I was going next. North Dakota State traveling to Montana State, Vegan versus North Dakota. Coach, we had a 30-minute segment on why Vegan should go to North Dakota State if that job came open. He played there, he's coached there, and he gets a rematch with his former team at home in the second round of the playoffs. That would by far be one of the biggest second round matchups that we have seen in a while.
Man, there was a song Jay-Z had, and it was perfect. It was all good just a week ago, and just a few weeks ago we were just talking about that, man, and here we are. And it's a lot. It's an interesting plot twist. Ain't no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'll sign me up for that. I might fly up to Bozeman for that. I still got that flight. That one I might have to use for that one. And Coach, we've been getting a bunch of questions. Let's address it. Brandon has brought it up. Mr. Campbell's brought it up. Central's path in the playoffs, and my guy Mr. Campbell, I'll see him at the SWAC championship next week. That they might be the third HBCU to beat a PWI team in the playoffs. Only FAMU, Tennessee State have accomplished that. And I want to remind everyone, Tennessee State win came over a Pioneer League team, non-scholarship. So this will be the biggest win in a while for an HBCU in the postseason. Coach, do you like Central's path this year with Richmond in the first round and a potential matchup with UAlbany in the second?
Before we get to that one, man, Tennessee State let you down, bro.
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
35-0 to Tennessee Tech.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Down, they let you down, man.
God, I was right. Listen, I had everyone believing Tennessee State could do something, and as soon as everyone jumped on the bandwagon with me, it all broke down. We had too much weight on the bandwagon, and it just all the tires went flat. It was ridiculous.
But, again, let me not take us off course, but the Central, the first round, it really depends on, I think, the hand of the quarterback, man. How good is he? How healthy is he on a scale of 1 to 10? Where is he? I think where last year they say he had the injury, the surgery, he had time to heal up before the Celebration Bowl. It's go time now. So where exactly is he? He didn't really have a test when we're talking about Delaware State, no disrespect. But now that the heat is on, how close is he to 100%? Because he's going to take them as far as they can go. Defensively, I think the Richmond matchup is a good one. Now, I'll let you handle the U-Albany matchup if they get to that. But the first round, I think that's doable. I really think that's doable.
I'm gonna need what was it? Whose mom was it in the Rose Bowl back in the day? Whose son played on one team and had two. She had the split jersey. I need one of those for that game because I've been bandwagoning for Central and U-Albany all year. I have no idea who I would want to win that game. That would be brutal. But I'll say this: I'm extremely confident that they can get past Richmond. That's a really good matchup for them. I mean, listen, you got to feel good if you're Central because you know this. It's hard to get those guys to focus sometimes, but them going into that game knowing that Morgan State handled this team. We know how we felt like these are two teams that Morgan State beat or should have beaten. They took U-Albany to what, double, triple overtime?
Right.
That's psychologically that gets the team even more pumped up because it's man, listen, we can get past these guys.
This is doable. This is not going up to South Dakota State. This is not going to Youngstown back when Alcorn did it when the snow was piled to the top of the stadium. This is actually doable. And I just think let me check that. This is doable if the quarterback is anywhere near himself. And I'll just leave it at that.
I think Central wins the first game. I'll say this: I'll listen. Still read the article when I drop it. Still watch me and Coach later this week when we do the preview. But I like Central's chances to win that game. And the question becomes: that offensive line has been inconsistent. How did they match up against that defensive front for U-Albany? That's the main question. You can play and compete with Albany if you can slow down that front seven. If you let them get pressure, it's a whole different game. And the good part for them is the one team they struggled against, which was Howard, is a big physical team that wants to run downhill on you. That's not Richmond or U-Albany. Especially Richmond. Richmond's going to air it out. And I think that plays into Central. Yeah, it plays into Central's hands a bit because I don't think Richmond's defense is going to be built to stop what Central's bringing in terms of the rushing attack with Mookie and Davius. U-Albany's a tougher game. I will say this: if they can get past U-Albany, that Idaho matchup is extremely, extremely interesting. But I'm with you. I pick them to go win in the Kibbe Dome? Probably not. But the good part is it's not outside. It's in a dome. So if you can get to the quarters, you're still inside. It's Idaho, which is a long trip from Durham, but you're not outside. And I do like that Central got put in the bracket where they don't have to go to South Dakota State round 1 or 2. That's huge. Coach, we talked about it. Anybody who was going to be on that side of the bracket with the Jacks in that top corner, quadrant, whatever, the road ends when you face them. It's because I got asked today, Coach, on the radio on Bison 16.6. I'll ask you. I keep getting asked who's your favorite to win? Are you confident that anybody, especially let's take Montana out of it, anybody on the left side of the bracket, who are you confident that can compete with South Dakota State and knock them off?
I mean, any given Saturday, but I mean, let's just be honest. From what they've put out, what they've shown, what's on wax, you would have to hope for one of those any given Saturdays for anybody, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's going to take a perfect storm. It's going to take something. Yeah, I won't go that far because there were some North Dakota State teams that if they would have lost, it would have been ground shaking. I mean, it would be an upset of epic proportions if someone knocked off South Dakota State outside of Frisco. If they don't make it to the national championship,
something happened.
Let me ask you this, Coach. Take Furman out because of the injuries. Which team in the second round has the biggest chance to get knocked off? Out of all the seeds, at least.
I mean, just because of where they are. I mean, you take, like you said, you take Furman out of it. I'm saying Montana.
It's tough, I know, because you don't want to pick against Montana State at home. Because someone put in the chat, I want to say it was Ron, under vegan. I want to say Montana State is like 26-0 at home. I'm gonna try to find it while you think about it.
I mean, that's a tough one because, like you said, I mean, as I'm strolling through myself, that's a tough call, just because those teams are at home. They're there for a reason. They are who they are. And you're talking second round. Second round. I mean, 8 seed.
So Nova possibly.
Where they are, I think they could. I would say the 8 seed. Youngstown has showed that they can play ball on any given Saturday. Now, it just kind of depends on which one's going to show up.
Yeah.
But I would go them, and then it's going to hurt my heart. But my guys up in Idaho have kind of been up and down. But if they're up, they're up. But if they're down, this is no time for slow start. And they've shown that they will start it out slow, and then they'll race to come back and get you. But in the playoffs, you can't do that. It's one and done. It's one and done. It's no more tomorrow after that. So I think out of you take Furman off the board, I would go the 8 and the number 4, just because. But man, it's hard not to say Montana State just because, and then I'm breaking my own freaking rule just because who North Dakota State is, you know what I mean? So I don't want to say that, but Montana
you see the
State's
logo.
They got to be on upset alert when those guys come to town. But I'm not going to say it because that would be breaking my own rule of pride and tradition in the program. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm with you with Nova. I think Nova's the one I'm looking at, because I think Youngstown's going to get past Duquesne. No offense to Duquesne, but the way Youngstown plays in terms of dominating time of possession, running the football, and Mitch Davidson has played pretty well this year outside of the South Dakota State game. That's a bad matchup for Nova, a really bad matchup.
Yes, physical matchup.
But then it was set up a beat down in Brookings, because we already saw South Dakota State beat Youngstown State 34-0 or something like that. I mean, it was epic proportions. So
Hard to beat a team twice.
No. No. I don't know about you. Me personally, I don't believe in that.
Basketball, football.
Basketball, yes. In football, that is the absolute. That is not. Now, if it's two good teams, yes, it's hard to beat a team twice. But if one team has that big of an advantage over the other team, it's not hard to beat a team twice. Like, let me say this: FAMU is going to have no problem beating PV twice this year at home. It's different. It's just different. So I don't subscribe to that. But yeah, I feel you on that. 34-3 was the score to that game, by the way. Someone put in the chat. I said 34-0, 34-3. Coach, the last question here. Your dark horse. Obviously, the betting favorite, South Dakota State, Montana State, even North Dakota State, I'll throw in there. Outside of those 4 teams, who is the dark horse to make a run to Frisco this season?
Man, I'm going with Idaho.
I like it.
They just got to get complete games put together. That's where the offense is clicking. They're not turning it over, where the defense is getting stops, and whether their run game is helping out the pass game. If they can put together a complete game, I really believe that they can make a run. Now, if they come out and it's no run game involved, you're relying solely on the QB, defense is optional, they don't have an opportunity. They don't have a chance. But if they put together complete games like they did at the beginning of the year, I think they have an opportunity. I really do.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, man, because there's so many different ways I could go with this because I'm not picking anyone at the top of the bracket. None of those teams are good enough to beat South Dakota State. So that knocks out those 4 teams. I don't want to copy you. I do agree Idaho is a really good option there just because of Giovanni, Hayden Hatton, and that team I think is going to be fired up. And I trust Eck. I trust Eck as a coach to have some really, really good performances, some good game plans. I've limited myself here because I knocked out North Dakota State. Oh, I'll go on a limb. I'll say, hell, I don't even know because I'll go with Idaho. Yeah, we'll go the same because the problem is I want to say Austin P, but Austin, I just like I said, 2 shows ago, I don't think there's a team before the semifinals that's going to go to Missoula and get a win in December. With that crowd, with that environment, with how hot that team is, I don't see Austin P being able to get past that one. I do think Austin P could be a dark horse team, could be really good. It's just tough for me to see that. So I'm with you. I'll probably go Idaho. I think an honorable mention could be South Dakota because I still like them against either Sac State or North Dakota. And a week after Montana and North Dakota State probably beat the hell out of each other, that could be an interesting game, especially because it would be South Dakota State would host that game. But I think if you had to look at a first round team, I know I knocked them out. I think you agree. It's that North Dakota State team just sticks out like a sore thumb when you're looking at first round teams who can make a run. Because if they get, I said this on the show today, if they get past Montana State in the second round, watch out. Just watch out because that team's going to be rolling. And so, oh God, I hate to even say that, man. Like I really do, man. But Coach, let's move on here. I mean, this weekend, that Montana State game was our game of the week. We both picked the Grizz to win, keep things rolling. It wasn't. I don't think either of us had a blowout. 37-7, though.
Yeah, no, I don't think either one of us picked it as that. Let me ask you this: do you think that has? How far do you think that goes in the mind of State here in this situation? Because they were dominated, from top to bottom, however you want to look at it. Almost 35 minutes time of possession. What can you get to get back mentally? Because they were rolling to get over this. So how do they combat this to come back into the playoffs and get back to where they are, knowing what just happened?
It's the same kind of criticism I've had. Like, there's a very obvious flaw in the way this Montana State team is built. As talented as they both are, Sean Chambers, Tommy Millott, they have a weakness. They can't throw the football.
67 yards back.
And when you have a defense that's built like a Montana, that's built like a South Dakota State, who can take the runaway, where do you turn as an offense? They have to show that they can throw the football more consistently against the elite teams in the country. And for 2-3 years now, they haven't shown that. And it cost them a national champ, even though Tommy Millott got hurt in the championship game. It cost them a national championship. In the 2021 season, it cost them a chance at the national championship against South Dakota State last year. It keeps biting them. It keeps biting this team. And if you can't go 4 for 16 and throw for 67 yards in a bad pick and expect to go win a national championship built like that, they have a great offensive line, a loaded running back room, and they still ran the ball fairly well. They ran for 200 something yards on the ground.
213.
But you cannot be one-dimensional against the elite teams in the country. And when you have a Montana team that the defense is super aggressive, they're creating negative plays, and then they're super balanced offensively. Coach, I'll say this. It's been a long time since I've seen a player take such a leap forward week to week than I have Clifton McDowell. He has went from not even starting the season in a dual quarterback system, not even starting, to being one of the hottest quarterbacks in the entire country.
At any level.
It's just, I'm impressed with the kid. And then on top of that, too, the emergence of Gilman has given them a really nice, I would say, rotation at running back. You got Nick, Eli Gilman, Clifton McDowell with his legs can run. They just have so many weapons. And then at wide receiver, I do think that they don't get enough credit because Junior Bergen and Aaron, I want to say Fontes, are problems at wide receiver, especially Junior Bergen, who is a huge deep threat. But now that Clifton McDowell's finding his deep ball, finding his intermediate game, man, this team looks like a bad matchup for everyone outside of maybe South Dakota State in the postseason.
Yeah, and then you hold those guys to 1 for 10 on third down. That's going to be tough to win any game because you just gotta think you're going to get the third down, and you got to be able to complete some of those to keep drives going, of course. But 1 for 10, and you only throw for 67 yards, that's a recipe for 37-7. I'm like you. They have an issue with throwing. I don't know how you fix it other than don't get behind. Because you get behind, that takes away what it is that you do best. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebound, man, for the playoffs. But getting behind is not their friend, and you got to put this and file this away quickly and move on because you can't let this one beat you twice.
I'll say this with the Clifton McDowell situation, it shows you how sometimes small changes that people kind of overlook in the off season pay off in big ways for certain teams. I still don't think people realize this was the guy that Dooley brought in at Southern.
McDowell.
He was committed to Southern and ended up decommitting, going to Montana, and look at what has happened with this kid's development.
I think they had 17 quarterbacks that year or something like that. And the kid looked around and was like, nah, these odds aren't in my favor, man.
It's just,
it's the same kids. We're all playing with the same kids, man. We're all playing with the same kids. It's just like you said, it's just the development part of it. I know I got loud there. I'm adamant about it because everyone always says that the level of kids here is different there. We're playing with the same freaking kids. It's all in how you develop them.
Coaching is so important. And this is example A. Because I don't know. I don't think he's doing that at Southern this year.
No.
And I'll just leave it at that. But shout out to McDowell. Shout out to Montana. Coach, I still don't think people have wrapped their head around this team losing to Northern Arizona, who just fired their head coach today, by the way, at the end of September. Everybody was counting them out. They were dropping out of top 25s. They were people were questioning whether Hawk was going to be there this offseason. They were questioning
they overrated?
Were they overrated? Are they going to be able to compete for the Big Sky? They're sitting here at the 2 seed, and right now there's a chance that I would write and pin is Montana, South Dakota State in the national championship right now because of how hot they are. Who would have ever thought on September 23rd after that Northern Arizona loss that this team would be the 2 seed right now?
We'd be there to see it.
With a 30-point win over Montana State to end the season.
No one would have called that one.
No.
No one would have called that one.
No, it's just crazy, man. But Coach, to wrap up the episode, we have had head coaching changes. We've had players into the transfer portal all day. It's been a busy, busy day of college football, which is expected because the regular season ended last week. But just to catch everyone up, head coach Clarence McKinney, his contract is set to expire. Texas Southern announced they are not going to re-up him, so there's going to be a big opening over at Texas Southern. Paul Peterson, fired after 5 seasons at Utah Tech. Chris Ball out as the head coach at Northern Arizona. Western Illinois makes a coaching change after an 0-22 run over the past 2 years. ETSU parts ways with George Quarles after 2 seasons. Coach, when you look at all the job openings, you got Southern, you got ETSU, Western Illinois, Northern Arizona, Utah Tech, Texas Southern to add on there. You got the Northwestern State job as well. The Southern job for you right now, because you look at jobs differently as a coach than we do as media. What do you think I guess which of these jobs are the best ones right now in college football for the FCS level?
It pains me to say it, but I really think that the Texas Southern job could be really good, just because of where you are. Now, it's going to take work. You're going to have a solid plan and program in place because you are smack dead in the middle of freaking Houston. And you're going to have to make sure your kids come to work and not be down at the Galleria or at this place or that place. But I think that job is a sleeping giant. I really do. And then, you just talked about it. Northern Arizona has proven that they can win games. You're in Arizona. The weather's nice. You've just got to go in and have the right mindset. And then I think the people that are above the coaches have to have the mindset as well that we're going to give Bluebloods University every opportunity to flourish and not just blow it up after 2 seasons. Now, the Western Illinois thing, no disrespect to them, but you've got to have realistic expectations. You got to. And I get it. Realistic expectations is not 0-22, but it's not the other way around either. So, you've got to see things going in a positive direction and give it a chance to catch momentum. So, I'll leave it at that, but I think those two are really good. I'm not going to speak on the SU job, but it's a what have you done for me lately business, man. And as head coaches, you've got to have that understanding when you go in there. You've got to have the years and you've got to have the Zach type of buyout.
That's a fact. That buyout. We get that Jimbo Fisher buyout. I'm with you on
today for tomorrow. He picks up a check tomorrow for $19 million.
Yeah. And
that's not it. He gets more.
Yeah. $7 million until 2031.
And he can still take another job and they still have to pay him that. Man, who's your agent, Jimbo?
I need to know because I need that setup. If
hey, he taking on peons, tell him to holler at me, Jimbo.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm with you. I think I look at the Northern Arizona job as one that has all the potential in the world. A1, they got some of the best facilities in FCS football. It's a program that has money behind it, that the boosters and people surrounding that program are willing to put up money. That's the thing. You can have money. Are people willing to put it up, though? Northern Arizona has been able to get money. And then 2, the recruiting grounds are perfect. Right where you are, you got the Arizona, you got California. You're right. I mean, you can recruit Texas from right there. I mean, there's so many, your recruiting base is you got all the West Coast ties. That's the one I'm looking at as one that can be successful. You're also in the Big Sky. Coach, this conference affiliation is a recruiting pitch.
Yep.
You're in one of the top conferences in the FCS. You can have that recruiting pitch as well. So I really do look at that Northern Arizona job as if they can make the right hire, if they can bring in someone who is a proven winner, can build a program, man, that they are going to be a problem. Like Ron said, only 3 hours away from Phoenix as well. I mean, they're right there, the perfect location. Also, it's a beautiful city too. I mean, it's like right there in the mountains. So shout out to them. They got it all cooking. And I know you couldn't speculate on it, but I guess I can't put it in there. Like, I'm so torn. I want to say Southern because they do have the resources. They got the fan base.
They've proven that.
Yeah. And They also have the location too. I think where they're located in Baton Rouge is really big for recruiting. The only reason I can't put it over Northern Arizona is because there's some things behind the scenes that if I'm a top coach, I don't know. I it's just I don't know if I would take that job. If you can only give me 2 seasons and I get to the SWAC championship and it's not enough and I'm not, making the right people happy, I just don't know if that one's for me.
Tough.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. So I think Southern's an honorable mention. ETSU is interesting too because they got some resources behind them, and it's a place that people have won before at as well. It's just,
but he had 2 years too, right?
Yeah, so he came in, he took over the team. It was that 11-2 ETSU team that made the run to Fargo. They ended up losing to North Dakota State in the playoffs. They had a Walter Payton finalist. They were 11-2. And then he comes back with back-to-back 3-win seasons. That's a lot different. Like, I can see firing a coach in 2 seasons if he's only giving you 3 games, coming off 11-2. But so I think that was interesting. Western Illinois is just a tough place to win, I feel like. I mean, what do you do? I mean, you're coming in, coach. Hendrickson went 0-22. And this season lost 10 of the 11 games this season by 10 or more points. What are you building on?
You got to tear it down, reset the foundation, and get some patience from the folks above you to understand that, look, I'm rolling 85 freshmen out of here, man. We're trying to build something. We are brand freaking new. Or I can load this thing down with transfers, JCs, and now I don't know what's going to happen when they leave from practice, but we're going to win some games. So it's double-edged, man. You got to figure out what you want from the top.
They've only had 2 winning seasons since 2009.
Come on, man.
This next hire is huge. And where do you go? Because they went the NAIA route because Hendrickson was extremely successful at Kansas Westland. He went 31-5.
That's a different beast, though.
Yeah, 2 runs to the quarter. So I'm assuming you got to go try to find someone who's been successful at this level, maybe even the D2 level, because there's been some D2 coaches that have made the run. I don't know who they go after. I think there's a few D2 coaches. I mean, obviously Chinnis, we've heard all the rumors about him coming up. I think the guy at Valdosta State's interesting.
He ain't going there.
No, he's not going there. I'm just talking about D2 guys who could be in line for an FCS job. I think South Carolina State would be interesting for him, though.
Now that's going to be an interesting hire.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of other assistants. I mean, I've heard Cade Bell's name thrown out a lot. The OC under Kerwin. His dad
ain't gonna let him take that job.
Yeah, he's not taking the South Carolina State job.
No, his dad's not gonna let him take that Western Carolina job.
No, I don't see that one either. I mean, and also with Cade is the question becomes. I mean, the question becomes if Kerwin gets an offer at a P5 or a G5 school, does Cade stay and potentially take over for his dad? Or is he the OC with his dad at a Power 5 school? Like, that's the question
that's the
question that comes from me at least is,
he goes with his dad because now that puts him in the catbird seat for the same thing. Whereas if he stays, I won't say it caps him, but it doesn't put him in the catbird seat like and I'm just using this name and it's a good program, nobody's going anywhere, but it doesn't put him in the cat seat if they go to Memphis and they have the same explosion. Now he's Conference USA, all those places are open to him, to where if he stayed at Western Carolina, what now? You know what I mean? Yeah. He can still have that same explosion, but does he get the same look?
No.
You know what I mean? That kind of deal. But Western Illinois, man, holler at me, man. I can help y'all out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, West Illinois call my guy Coach Fred,
I'll
for
help you
sure.
figure
But
it out.
also the pay too.
Well, we got to know that up front.
Yeah, because like I mean, obviously not everything's public, but like the offensive coordinator at most FBS places probably pay just as much or more than the head coach at the FCS level. Sadly, I
Yes.
mean, especially
True.
Power Five,
Oh,
which is why like I've heard was it Brennan Marion's name mentioned a lot, who was the OC under London
yeah.
at Howard, and he went to Texas as the wide receiver coach, and now he's the OC, and I want to say UNLV.
He ain't coming back.
I don't see. I think he's kind of in the same boat as like a Jerry Mack.
Yeah,
He
ain't coming back.
Jerry Mack's not coming back unless he gets fired at Tennessee, and he's not getting anytime soon. That's
That
kind of
part.
so I just don't see either of those. Coach, real quick question before we get into the transfers, real quick. My guy Dave wants to know what's more desirable, South Carolina State or Texas Southern?
To me, because I'm a guy that don't want to lean on past tradition and all that. But to me, Texas Southern, as long as you're playing in that pro stadium. Now I don't know what the campus situation as far as the practice field, but I know they got the turf, all that. Location wise, I think Texas Southern is probably, and they pay more, I'm sure. Is probably the top one out of those two, the more desirable one.
I'm going with Texas Southern too. One,
I'm
something we
not
haven't
following
talked
Buddy
about.
Pugh.
Thank you. That was my first point. I don't need to know facilities, pay, anything. Following a legend is almost impossible.
It never
No
works.
chance. Man, no offense to this guy. I'm following Clarence McKinney over Buddy Pugh every day of the week. No
Every day of the
chance
week.
I want to follow Buddy.
No. Mm-mm.
I'm good.
Mike Tomlin's the only one that's done that
Yeah,
successfully.
exactly. I mean, it's hard. I mean, North Dakota State had a unique thing where they had a system. I don't think that same system's at South Carolina State that they had at
No.
North Dakota State, where they were just bringing in guys and still winning national titles. It's hard to do. I And also Texas Southern has a deeper recruiting, like they're in a deeper recruiting footprint. They're in Texas. You can build an entire roster, a winning FCS roster from the
Right
state of
there.
Texas if you recruit properly.
Right there.
They and I also think Texas Southern, if I'm not mistaken, I think even the financial backing is a lot stronger than even at South Carolina State. I mean, people don't know, like South Carolina State is a very, very small institution.
Yeah, don't feel sorry for McKinney now.
No.
He's had 3 years of a good check.
And Dave, you would think that having Buddy Pugh as a mentor would help you. I think it would actually do the opposite. The fact that he's in the building, if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not winning, it makes it even worse because they see him every day.
That shadow just gets bigger and bigger. A couple years ago, and I know we're about to wrap up. I won't say a couple years ago, but back, Ron Prince goes in and takes over Kansas State behind Bill Snyder.
Look what happened.
Doesn't work. Bill Snyder's right back in the same desk. That shadow just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger the more you don't win games. Oh, Coach Pugh won those games. He had us here. He had us there. Now you open the building. He's in the building before you get to the building. I'll follow him after the next guy.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because there's talk that Buddy might be the permanent AD.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm completely fine on that. Coach, big transfer portal news today. I mean, Matthew Saluka, All-American quarterback in the portal from Holy Cross. You got All-American linebacker Jacob Dobbs in the portal. We've seen a whole bunch of Ivy League guys into the portal announced for the draft. I mean, transfer portal season is ramping up right now. I mean, are you surprised at any of the announcements by chance, or is it kind of just expected in today's age of college football?
I'm surprised by the guys that are established guys, starters, really good starters, all conference players. I'm really surprised by that because it's happening so early. Because the group of five guys, the Power Five guys, are still playing. So I expected, this to be maybe 2 weeks down the road. but not like the opening hour, like at, you know, when the stock market opens, bing, bing, and then it just explodes. The quarterback really, really surprised me because of, you know, who he is, what he's done, his track record. But, you know, in this day and age, man, everybody's looking for something different, something new, maybe a different challenge. Then again, I mean, I don't want to speculate, but then again, maybe somebody gave him a brand new Dodge Ram, some gas money, and, you know, he thought maybe that was just a better deal.
That's true, man. Shout out to my guy Dustin, man. Appreciate you. I have a theory. Nothing's confirmed. This is just me speculating. I want to put that out there. Nothing's been confirmed. I think the exodus of Holy Cross could signal an opening for Chesney finally. Chesney's
That would
won.
make sense.
Chesney has been outstanding as the head coach of Holy Cross. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't got an offer. He's still a younger coach, but I personally think that Chesney has something in the works, and these guys can sense it. I mean, Coach, he took over Holy Cross in 2018. He's won a share of the conference title for 5 straight seasons, and is 44-21 as the head coach, 28-4 in conference. Led them to the quarterfinals last year. Has won plenty of Coach of the Year awards. He's been successful at Assumption. He's been successful at I don't even know what league that is. Division 3, I want to say, is where he coached even before that. But he's been successful everywhere he's been. He's a Northeast guy. Now, me and Timothy were texting today. Syracuse is open right now. And I've reached out to some people, and there could be some smoke there. He was named as a candidate right when that job opened by some high-level college football analysts. I wouldn't be surprised if Chesney's the guy at Syracuse, why would you not bring Matthew Saluka to be your guy year one at Syracuse? He would probably be the best quarterback Syracuse has had in 10 years.
Especially if he'll come.
Yes.
Especially if he'll come.
That's not confirmed, but that's just my guess, because it was a big exodus of guys. I mean, Coach, right here, I'm just going through the list of guys that hit the portal today. Liam Johnson, Princeton linebacker, was the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year last year. Carson Primrose, all-conference guy from Sacred Heart. They're all the FCS Punter of the Year semifinalist from Holy Cross enters the transfer portal as well. I mean, Holy Cross DB Terrence Spence, all-conference guy, in the portal. Damian Harris, Bucknell wide receiver, in the portal. Matthew Saluka, Jacob Dobbs. I mean, the list has been going on and on. I'm just surprised that we've had this many guys enter already. Alex Oliver from VMI, all conference defensive back. I mean, I'll say this. I think it's just ramping up, Coach. And that's a scary part, because once some of these teams start getting knocked out of the playoffs,
it's going to happen.
Those guys are going to start rolling in. And then, Coach, it's Monday, November 20th. It's Monday. I think before Thanksgiving, it's going to get really
4 pages long.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting. But Coach, man, to wrap it up, wide receiver of the week, man, the last one of the regular season. Who do you got as the final Fly Zone wide receiver of the week?
Man, you're gonna like this one, man. It's that twin up there. He went 10 for 187 and a touchdown. Last week he got beat out. Talking about Jaden Yankee. Got beat out last week. He went over 100. Came back this week and said, you know what, Coach Fred, I'm going to get close to 200, and I'm going to make this thing real, real scary out here. 10 catches, 187, like I said, 1 touchdown. Been doing this thing all year. You know, once he got back healthy, once they got back healthy, part of that two-headed monster, that run game, that pass game, Mr. Yankee is the fly zone guy for the week, last one. And he has basically put his name in the hat for receiver of the year that we'll come up with at some point in time here at the end of the season.
Love it, man. We couldn't end the year without a Yankee twin winning the award.
That's crazy.
Had to give it to him, even though we started midseason, so maybe that kind of played a role.
Though. He's been close.
Coach, someone just sent this to me for us to talk about real quick. It won't take long. Sean Gibbs, head coach, Fort Valley State, obviously, tweeted out on a rant about guys declaring for the draft as seniors, and his tweet said, quote, "I'm sorry, but I can't take it anymore. College guys, when you have exhausted your eligibility, you don't have to tell us you are declaring for the draft. You just can't play college ball anymore. We get it."
That's self-explanatory, but I get it, man. Everybody wants to write that long Twitter message with the picture in the back of it. Let them have it, man. Let them have it.
Oh, I get it why it would be frustrating for coaches. I really do. But like, there's like, yeah, I feel him, because there's sometimes, like, people will send me stuff like I don't want to hate on the kid, but like the Maurice Washington kid last year from Grambling declaring for the draft, all of us like, no, you're just not coming back to Grambling. That was the decision. Well, that one, like, if you don't have a draft grade, like,
what are we doing? Who's advising
Yeah.
you? That's a whole other show. That's a whole other
D-Love said NFL logo at the bottom, copyrighted.
Hey, shout out to D-Lo, man.
Oh, that's a fact. D-Lob, shout out to UAPB. We didn't even talk about that. 31-10 trailing at halftime. Came all the way back, coach. 30, a 1-point win, 35-34.
Yeah. Way to end the year, man.
D-Lob, when you sleep tonight, I hope it's hard for you to sleep tonight, because you're the reason Clarence McKinney got let go today. That is your fault. D-Lob, that is all your conscience. I want you to make sure you remember that tonight when you lay your head down, because that is
and when
your
you
fault.
Have that first cup of coffee, I want you to hear Zach telling you, this is your fault.
That's Coach, I don't know. I guess I got to do some research. Is this the first time that every single SWAC team has won a conference game?
Man.
Because every team got to win.
Yeah, you might be onto something, because they were the last ones. You're right.
Yeah, they were the last team to get a conference win. So because Valley got UAPB, Bethune got Valley, and UAPB called Texas Southern. Hey, shout out to the SWAC, man. Everyone, it's like participation trophies. Everybody gets a conference win this year. You gotta love it. But guys, I'm gonna get with Coach after the show. We'll make an announcement, because obviously our Thursday night's our night. We're not coming live on Thanksgiving night to you guys. Y'all go enjoy y'all's family. Me and Coach will be doing the same, enjoying the holidays. We'll get back to you. I'm assuming it'll probably either be Wednesday or Friday. We'll get back to y'all on that for the first round FCS football preview. We're also going to preview the Bayou Classic this weekend, man, the final regular season SWAC game of the season. No Turkey Day Classic, because Alabama State should beat a D2 team, but crazier stuff has happened. We'll put it like that. But guys, make sure to stay tuned for all channel updates on the community page. Check out the website, si.com/college/FCS. But for my guy, Coach Fred, for myself, for the Bluebloods FCS Football Central, we are out for right now.